everybody, it is Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa, and today is day 30 of Acrylic April. Today I'm going to show you step by step in acrylic on canvas how to paint this adorable piglet in yellow flowers. This is the last painting in the 30 painting series, but you could just do this painting on your own. To help me do that is my husband, John.
Hello.
He has been here with us every single day of this 30-day journey for 4 years. In a lot of schools, that's graduating, right? 4 years in Hogwarts, that's graduating. So 4 years. If this is your first year, man, congratulations. I hope you will keep joining us year after year. You can find the old Acrylic Aprils and replay and do these at any time if you're finding this years later. We're still just as excited and happy to have you. I'm going to break down every technique, every color, every mix. There's a mini book with written out instructions. There's a traceable. There's a step-by-step infographic on the website. I am about giving you the resources so you can do this. So really all you've got to do is grab your resources, get your paint, get your brushes, and come back and meet me right now. We're going to be doing the Piglet together. On today's painting, I'm using another 8x8. I have the wish or intention for you, since this is the last of the Acrylic April series, that this ending is really just a new beginning for you, that you begin to paint even more than we did in this month, and it's an ongoing journey for you. So you know where the paint is on the palette. This is where my ultramarine is, my quinacridone magenta, my Naples yellow lights. I like the tight knit yellow version of this. Read the blog if you're just coming here because you love pigs and you want to paint this, because the blog makes buying this paint easy and as expensive or inexpensive as you want. Cad yellow medium, cad red medium, burnt sienna, phthalo green, Mars black, titanium white, which still has a little pink in it, but we're working it through. Now, guys, at the end of this, I'm going to take you on a little tour of the paint that I have left from the last 30 days and the condition of my brushes, so you guys can see what it really was for me. And that might help you know, like, how much paint do you use in 30 paintings off of a 2-ounce tube in professional paint? I just realized I can answer that question now because we're finishing up. But to finish up, we've got to begin by putting in a background. And we're going to put in a nice, kind of little brown background. And I think the easiest thing to this is we're going to just start out with a little bit of brown and then come in and do a fuse thing. Now, to make quick painting of this, I'm using my 1-inch blender. Hopefully the abstract floral got you very excited about this brush, and you're going to be using it. When is, oh, I just see. You have an idea? You have an idea? What is the idea? Why are you putting green between them? So I got dressed for this and we used a green screen, but the green stripe in my rainbow was invisible. It's been bothering Sean, so that's what that was. Stunt hands in video correction. So I have my mop brush and I'm going to go ahead and just load it with some brown paint. This is burnt sienna, and I'm just going to paint the whole background burnt sienna. Now it's going to be a little transparent and streaky, and that's kind of the nature of browns in paint anyway, so don't feel weird about that. We have 2 coats to do, and everything will fix itself in the second coat. Can't believe John did that. That's really funny. Perfect for the 30th painting in the series, isn't it? Now, I love how, like, sometimes we get a lot of people who show up for the 30th painting because they're like, how did it end? Hopefully we'll get that. Remember, guys, you can take your time to do this. We always have the group open. There are always people going through the challenge. So you'll never find yourself just without support or love or encouragement. That's all it takes to paint that background brown. This is really funny because in the step, it'll be like a brown cube floating over my head. And there's always people like, why is there a brown square? Because that's the step. But now the step will have pictures and things, and that is important. All right, dry this thoroughly. I'm going to take this time to sketch in the pig. I'm going to show you how I sketch in the baby piglet. You guys can use the traceable here at home. This will be like the third or fourth time I painted this piglet. The beginning of this, we had a video where I showed you the progress, where I gave that the test, and you guys liked the painting so much. You're like, it needs to be one of the paintings for this, so I'm going to do that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round brush and get a little white on it. Why am I using white paint? So you can see it at home. What should you use? Chalk or traceable?
Huh.
Right. So we're going to come here and I want to kind of just scale in how much of the canvas the head is taking. So I'm going to come up, gosh, it's about 4 fingers centered, on here. And I'm going to also bring this down and I'm going to just capture sort of the general shaping because you don't need to have everything in on the pig yet, right? You just need general shaping. How big is the pig? How much room does Mr. Piglet take up? And so if you kind of get that in, then you really have quite a lot of information.
Is the piglet relative?
The piglet is relative to itself.
It's not an absolute pig.
It is definitely not an absolute piglet. Nothing in art is an absolute. I'm going to also just take this time to center line what will be Mr. Piglet's head so that when I do put in eyes, and I will, I'll be able to do that fairly easily. I'm going to come in and also sort of speak about maybe a little nose here a little. This is a very loose sketch. Right, little piglet nose. Little under piglet chin. And then just give yourself an idea of where these eyes are going to be in relationship to each other. Human skull, bovine skull, all the little skulls, you do want your eyes to be kind of lined up. Now, this one is a little more in, so we can kind of bring it in because it's a little in a quarter view. We'll have to see how this piglet's little personality is. Because you never know, right? They sort of change every time. Boy, he got cute fast. I can tell how cute he's going to be. This one's going to be even cuter than the third one. Look how cute he is already. He's so cute.
Super cute.
Super cute. You use your traceable. You'll get a very similar result. When we come back, we're going to put in our loose and distant background. Okay, so we want to have a diffuse sort of background that's going on that the little piglet came from. I'm going to use a number 16 Raphael Artini brush. This is a hog brush. You know that because like there's little crazy hairs sticking out. I've got to reshape it. But like I said, I'm just like letting you know what shape everything is in at the end of the journey. I'm going to take a little of my ultramarine blue and some of my burnt sienna. And these two together often make a wonderful gray. So I'm going to want some of that gray. This is a very natural color, right?
Yes.
Happening in the background. I'm going to just sort of loosely put this out a few places. I can be a little more blue. I'll come in to the pig a bit more into my line than maybe I sketched, and that way I'm not having to paint out anything. Kind of working this in. It's okay if a little of the brown underneath shows through. That's not really a big problem for us. We'll come back with burnt sienna and a little black and different colors as we go through. Notice that I'm making this background kind of non-focal by varying my brush strokes. Some are going down, some are going across, and that's how I'm going to keep up that variety. That's how I'm going to get it. I'm going to want to come down deep enough so that when I put the flowers in there, they have some place to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and get a little Mars Black and Burnt Sienna together. Put a little of these colors in here, right? Working those in. Every time I do this background, I see more.
So pretty, yeah.
Yeah,
I like these backgrounds.
I do too. They're just really hard for me in the beginning of doing a daily painting to paint like this. And if you haven't seen my video where I showed you the progress that I made from my first daily painting to now, you really have to see it because we all improve from it. I improve from it. You improve from it. We come out of it changed. We are not the artists we went into it.
Improvement happens.
Improvement is going to happen. Now I'm going to pull out a little of my brown and some black, and I'm going to get some white into it, and it's going to give me kind of a very light beige. And I'm going to also add these light values into the diffused background. Let's make sure Mr. Piggle is,
Yeah.
you know, able to stand out. I can get a little yellow into it and kind of take it into like a parchment color. I go a little more burnt, see?
Yeah.
Umber, burnt sienna, and yellow with the white. I have to have not too much black in it because that will make it green. I'm gonna come here and keep adding to the diffused nature of the background.
Mm.
It's out of focus because this is the star. He's the star.
Yes.
Yeah. This little one is the star. Now I'm also going to kind of rinse out thoroughly. I'm going to do a fun thing. I'm going to take a little yellow and a little red, make kind of an orange, and add a little brown to that. Maybe even a little more red. And add some of this a few places. Come over anything that looks just too rough or not really the feeling that I'm going for. And it just gets better and better, right?
Really does.
I love it. Make sure you take some of this around the back. I'm light pressure. I'm going to go into the head a little bit. I might come in. No, actually, I'll come back to that in a second because I think I want that to be dark. Really dark enough to sort of show the white hair that's going to be there. So sometimes you got to kind of think about, oh, I'm going to need some contrast up here in a minute. Right? So
Yeah.
you can plan for that ahead. If you know there's a white ear and a white head going to be up in there, you can kind of be like, you don't have to like always tell exactly the truth. Right? In your life, you should, but not in your painting. You shouldn't have to do that. In life, you should tell the truth. But in your painting, you are supposed to edit and rearrange and reimagine. Like a place that's good to do. Unlike court, where that would not be good to do. We're not encouraging that. Look at that very kind of diffuse. I like that. It's like really abstract, you know? Really abstract. I think it's kind of working a bit. Sometimes I get to looking at it and I'm like, ooh, what are you going to be? And then I get to fiddling. All right. Feel like I've kind of said as much about the background as I feel like saying right now.
And it's all there.
And it's all here, right? Definitely it's nice to have a scruffy brush, but you could do it with any braid that you have. Let me level this up. When we come back, we're going to paint the next layer. So one of the first things that I like to do on the piglet is the ears, and that way I can layer the fur in little sort of steps across him. This ear is going to be more white. Believe it or not, this ear is our gray color, which is our ultramarine blue and our burnt sienna. We're going to start with this. That's our basis of our fur. Don't you love that?
Yeah.
I'm going to come here on the back of his little head, and I'm going to just take an upward stroke. Number 4 round, Simply Simmons. I'm just going to flick this out. into the ether.
Hmm. Ether flicking.
Ether flicking is going on right now. And I might have some black fur that's going to make its way here, but there's no reason not to do a little layer. You can see I'm just dragging it up. And what happens is that these brushes, if I don't have the brush too loaded with paint, and if I don't have too much pressure, they will start to pull apart because it's a stiff brush. You could use a hog brush to get the same effect. If you really, really wanted to have an easy time, you could use a grass comb or a filbert grainer. But I didn't want you to have to go out and buy new brushes, so I didn't really do that. Now, when that's there, right, I'm going to want to come across and paint the bases of the other ear. I'm going to take a little black. In this chance, I'm going to take a little ultramarine blue. What? I know. That's because I like to have a little bit of a Payne's gray cast to it. And I'm going to come at the base and do the same thing, flicking out. Hopefully I got the ears about the same height on this little black and white pig. Now his fur has a little marking coming here. So I will want to put that a little bit into him already. Maybe a little excited there, so I'm going to pull that back a bit. See how I overdid, but I didn't want it, and I just erased it. If the canvas underneath is dry and the paint you're putting on is wet, you can generally just back up a brush stroke before it dries. Once it dries, you got to paint it over. But before it dries, you're pretty good. Now I'm going to make sure that this goes at least into this part of the bridge. That way I can really layer the white over it. And at this point, the other side's pretty dry. So I'm going to come in and get a little of my titanium white. And this only works if this is already dry. If it's not already dry, then you've got to dry it. Kind of adding another layer. A little whimsical there with that one little hair. His ears are getting a little whimsical. I can also, really kind of take the moisture out of my brush and pull this in a bit so that when I come back with the black to layer, it's going to be there. Now listen, I don't want to go to a whole nother step, but I do need to dry this black to do the next layer on it. So we're going to leave this in the step, but understand that you're drying it. And if you've got to pause me to dry, pause me, dry, and then meet me back and we'll do the top little layer of the fur. Okay, so I'm going to take my ultramarine blue and my Mars black over here, and I'm going to make them just a little more blue, kind of a blue-gray. And I don't want my brush too wet, so I'm going to wipe off on a towel. And let's come here and kind of showcase a little bit of like, I would call this like a little reflection in the ear. Because dark hair tends to be pretty shiny. Isn't that nice? A little reflection. And maybe another one kind of right here. Just a little bit. It's just a touch. And I come back into my black and blue. And just make sure that I've got nice depth on his dark fur. Bristles! I talk about bristle brushes and pigs all the time. It's rude to use bristle brushes when you paint a baby pig, but it's what we're doing today.
Just don't tell the pig.
Just don't tell. Just pulling this here. Making sure this is nice and fluffy. I can go back into the gray if I need to. I'm not trying to make a white ear. I'm just trying to create a little sheen on the ear. All right, that's the ears. That's how we get those in. Fun stuff. When we come back, I'm going to show you what you do next. So at this stage, sometimes I like to go in and work on the eyes and the snout, like the features of the animal, and then come back and put in things like bristles or hair. So I think I'm going to do that. Let's start with the snout. Normally we start with the eyes, but let's start with the snout, John.
All right.
I like the snout. I'm going to take a number 4 Simply Simmons round. Let me bring my water over
The
here.
truffle finder.
Truffle Finder. I made him cuter this time, I think. I think I did. It's just my feeling. I'm going to take a
Truffles the
little.
pig.
Truffle's the pig. I'm going to take a little of my Naples yellow and some of my quinacridone magenta, and let's go ahead and pull a little burnt sienna over. I like to kind of get into this mix here because we're making it above the snout. This is an area that's going to show under the fur, hair, bristles, something,
Hmm.
bristles, right? And so I think it's nice to have kind of a rosy aspect to it. I think it works really well, just generally. Go ahead and add a little more Naples yellow and maybe some white. Pig snout. You can even get cad yellow in it. You can get really into this.
Hmm.
This is not dissimilar to, by the way, skin tone.
It's a pig tone.
It's a pig tone. What I'm doing here is trying to get a very light value of pink. Let's get a little of our 2 yellows into it so it's warm. It's a warm pink, John.
Hmm.
See? And it
I
really
see.
kind of shows against that space. And that is going to be at the top, kind of coming around. We'll begin here. And then as we go down, we're going to, become darker into the snout. Getting that little shading value in.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to make any of this darker, I add a little ultramarine blue. And look at that. It creates kind of a pink mauve that lets imply a shadow. I'm using my brush to sort of blend wet into wet here. So I'm going to get that. I'm going to get a little more of my blue into my skin tone mix. Even pull these two to just make it a little more of that. And come right underneath where the little chin is under the snout. Getting that going. And then maybe we'll go right into some magenta again. And it come under here. And see that? Blending that around. So when we put in the fur, we can have a little bit of the pink chin and a little bit of that there. I am maybe going to take, this is a round blender. This is a number 12 round blender in the Princeton Select line. And I'm going to brush this so that it's lighter. And if I have to, I'm going to go up into my light color and make sure that I kind of brush blend that in while everything is still wet. I want soft transitions. All right, grab a little purple. That's what we're making here. We're using this brush to create soft transitions. If you get too much paint, you wipe it off on the paper towel. But you just lean into it until all the transitions are soft and sort of blended. And we will use this here too where we need to get that. You can get, this is also a good one for hair and different things. So there's lots to do. I'm not going to change, well, actually, yes, I'm going to let this be 2 steps because I think if you get this part of the nose, you'll be able to get the rest of the nose. So let's call this step nose like part A, and we'll come back in another step and do part B. So I'm going to want to put in some deep values on here and back to my number 4 Simply Simmons round. And I'm going to get a purple using my quinacridone and my ultramarine blue. And we're going to come right here and start the little snout parts. See how we're done? The beginning of the snouts.
Snooter tip.
The snooter tip. we will just imply the depth of the snooter tip.
The truffle sensor.
The truffle sensor. We're going to come under here with our purple. Kind of make sure there's that nice little shadow, right? Deep little value that could be there that we like. And a little bit of a lip. That's good. I'm going to get into my yellow and Quin here again. A little white. I think I have too much blue in there. Sometimes it's nice to tone it, but if it gets to be too much, you just start back over.
Mmm.
There we go. Work those in. And then a little. So I'm just playing between the Tight Knit Yellow, Naples Yellow Light, the Cad Yellow, Quinacridone Magenta, Burnt Sienna, and then the Ultramarine Blue. Anytime I'm adding Ultramarine Blue in, I'm trying to make it cooler and create more of a shadow. Come up over the nostril here. And a little bit here as well. Might get a little more quinacridone on my little brush here. Kind of come around, it's a little pinker. If I go into the purples, I'm going to come out on my nostril, kind of creating a little shadow.
Oh.
It's not as dark as the deep shadow in the nostril by any means. It's just there we go. And then down again into the more purple of the pinks. Lower half of the nostril, it's just more purple pink. Make sure that there's shading. I'm going to even get a little more blue here. Shading at the pig snout.
Uh-huh.
Play with that pig snout shading.
It's a shaded snout.
It is a shaded snout. Now I'm going to make a light lavender almost pig nose tone. Yeah. And the light lavender would be the basic mix, right? Which is the quinacridone, the tight knit yellow, the cad yellow medium, and burnt sienna, a little titanium white. But then we add a little bit of the ultramarine blue in it and take it to the lavender. So it's lighter, but it's not lighter like in the sun lighter. Like you do.
Like you do.
Like we all do. I can put a little bit of that there. Now I'm going to take my brush kind of rinsed out and make sure that this is toned in. A little bit even right here, a little more pink. Sometimes I'll just get more into the pink. But like you need to be pinker than you are.
Huh.
A little more yellow up here. Let's get a lot more white. It's so light. A little cad yellow. It's pretty light. That's like the light reflecting. And I'm going to come back into my little flesh tones here. Make sure the shape of my nose is good. And I'm going to take my damp, soft brush and just sort of blend that line in a little bit. Just a little bit. Grab the cooler color, just a little bit, making sure that's nice. Now there will be little wrinkles coming out on the little snouters. So I'm going to come into the lighter color and make a fine line over the nose.
A nose line.
It's the first highlight wrinkle. And then a third little small one. So see how they're kind of like concentric, but also getting smaller?
Yeah.
I like that. Back into my magenta and blue. Little pink here. I just love this nose. And the nose is absolutely worth your time.
The
I think.
nose is absolute.
Is absolutely worth your time, this little nose. Now, when this is all good, I can come in with my brush very cleaned and rinsed out, and I kind of finger shape it to a point. So it's as sharp as it's gonna be. Then I'm gonna come in and make a little fine line on the interior of that nose. And tap out a little shadow coming in. Okay, so see it started come
Yeah.
apart on that line. So what I'm going to do is again, finger shape it, get a little paint. And just make sure that I can get a good line. So that's sometimes you'll have to do that with your brushes when you're trying to get a line. If you're painting and you're having trouble getting a line, remember that you can rinse out, finger shape, and then very carefully load a tip. All right, this is looking pretty good. I think we're ready to move on to the eyes. So when we move up to the eyes, I'm going to switch over to my number 4 liner. I lost my Princeton Select earlier
Oh
in the
no.
journey. I don't even know when. I think the dog ate it. It's gone. Definitely seen signs of other brushes having,
Oh, there was one that
yeah,
we found
just
this morning.
super
Did you see
chewed.
it?
I did. I
You
did.
were like, oh
So this
no.
is the trick. I just want to make sure that these eyes line up, right? So I'm going to come here and just, you
Not
know,
wonkety.
yeah, they need to line up. Because they're in the skull and opposite, areas. Now I'm going to come in and get my sort of, it's like the flesh tone that I had going, right? Same flesh tone. I'm going to come in and around the eye.
Maintain low tones.
Got to maintain low tones. Kind of come in with that little flesh tone there. Like we do. And this one is just a little bit, kind of a little more open and slightly on the turn. And that's okay. Now, my eye color, let me get some mister on here so I can kind of reactivate some of the paint that I mixed earlier, but maybe is not as thick anymore. Trick. Add a little ultramarine blue to it and some white. And I'm definitely going to want to come to the outside of this little eye, kind of talking about that kind of whites of the eye. My black and blue again on the tip of this brush. This eye is a little bit out from other things. Just paint that in carefully. You can see I'm painting it in carefully. Not great for the time lapse, but where my hand's like right on what you need to see. Here and then kind of come in as much as I can and sort of fill that in as well. So you can see that one eye is kind of really turned. So the head's just slightly turned, right? It's just a slight turn of the head. Going to get a little of my white into this mix here. Kind of pull that out there. Come around here. Definitely work the sides, and then if I go back into the black, I can kind of finish up this eye. It's a little bit, cutesy.
Yeah,
I know.
I like him.
Come in with like gray blue kind of skin tone, a little bit darker. And perhaps it comes around that eye a little bit so you can really sort of, see that going on.
Ah,
I can always make sure that I take this time to make sure her, or his, I don't know him, her, them, I don't know him.
got the lashes.
I
Lash
haven't met
work.
the pig in that kind of a way. I haven't met the pig in that way. The pig is your pig. So you make those decisions. And these aren't really lashes. This is just the hair that's peeking out from the eye. But if I get it now, it's not as hard for me to do later. You see that? If we have it now. Yes, later we're going to have a lot going on there. But if we get this now, then we're just set. Get that gray that we were using for the fur earlier. We know that this is definitely going to also kind of come and peek out on that side. There's just a time when this is easier, and this is that time. You know how nice that looks? Just looks really good. And that's a little bit similar here. Gonna make sure I have enough, nice enough line kind of coming up and over. We've got other little hairs happening there. I'm just planning for in the future when there's kind of this little stripe that's right here in perspective. We'll have that. Under the eye, we've also got to kind of come in and just while we can, just make sure that there is a little area sort of painted well. Because when we come back in with a lot, like the bigger brushes, it's nice to have some little uh, moat that lets us have a little room around these eyes. I'm going to go back into my black. Make sure this eye is very dark. Kind of even a grayer white of the eye. There's a reason for that later because I can put a bright white spot on it and it's just like amazing. Now I'm going to take a little of my white and ultramarine blue. Make a little reflection right here. It's quite short. And then one at the bottom of the eye. And then this one will come across and it will actually go down into that space. So at this moment, if I were to put out a little bit, I'm sure I'm going to get it more and more and more, a little bit of my titanium white. This is golden fluid acrylic. It is a thinner, less heavy-bodied paint. It's self-leveling. It's just as pigmented, if not more pigmented than heavy body. You could use craft paint or you could thin your white with water. I just love the convenience of this because it gives me the brightest, crispest little reflections. Look at that.
Just
Maybe
a little dot.
a little bit on the inside of the eye too. The wet eyes is so cute, right? And then there, see how that little bit of the gray being on the white is just kind of nice, right?
Yeah.
And there we go. A little bit of wet on the inside of the eye. That's the eyes. That's what you've got to do to get there. We do have detailing on the snout to do, but we'll do that kind of more towards the end of the pig after we have more fur. And look at this. Already, no fur. So cute. So cute. So we have an interesting way that we have to sort of layer in markings and fur based on what is sitting over what, the way we see the fur lay over in the patterning. And that's always a bit of a challenge when you're new to it. What I say is look at what fur is laying across on top. You have to do that after the fur under it. So I have to do this fur because the black is laying on top of it. Right? Now, if I had white laying on top of this black fur, which I do, I'm using a number 4 round and a little bit of ultramarine blue and Mars black. And I'm just allowing my brush to flick and create that hair pattern. Not too wet. No, it's pretty good here. That's what we're doing. Now I also have a bit of black fur that comes here that this white has to go over, but this white has to go over it. So I actually have to paint it now. So when you're looking at an animal with markings, you're going to also be looking for where does the fur, and when I come over the pink, I'm very light with that so that you can see the pink through there. And I've got a bunch of white here I'll have to layer over, so I'm going to need to get to that in a minute. I can only get some of this. I can't get all of it, just some of it. Ah, the many layers of the fur.
The fur.
Right. I'm going to kind of flick that out so his cheeks are round. I think I'm just getting better and better at doing these cute pigs.
Yeah.
You know, now I just don't know how many pigs you guys are going to get because I feel like I'm kind of mastering the pig space. Having kind of a similar thing here. This black doesn't really go into the snout as much, and it's got a layer over this, so I can't go too far. I just need enough for the forehead layering. Isn't that fascinating how you just got to pick that?
Yeah.
And then you know where you stop based on, well, I've got to layer this over the white, so there's no point in taking it all the way out because the white will have to be there. So that can sit for a second, just a second. Sometimes it's good to come in, you know, make sure you've got a nice coat though. That's what I'm doing. Making sure the coverage is good and it looks nice because we'd want that. Right? We've got good snout color, but let's make sure we've got really great snout color. So I'm taking a little of my quinacridone magenta and my burnt umber and just burnt sienna and a little bit of white. Just
Yeah.
making sure that that comes up a little bit so that when I've got to put the white into it, there's a bit of a blend there. The white fur, again, is a little burnt sienna and ultramarine blue and a lot of titanium white. And the reason is for it to look white, we have to have shadow in it, and to have shadow in it, we have to do a slightly darker white. So based on how the fur layers, I have to do the top of the head first. And if I want the nice little fur technique, I've got to load that brush correctly where it's not heavy loaded. And again, if you want this just to be so easy, what do? You do a filbert grainer, a grass comb. Now as I come over here to the black, see, layering over. A little sparser over the pink. And that reason is that, the hair doesn't grow as thickly there. Now I have a nice little exterior mark. At this point I can come and sort of also make sure that that's there. Coming around the snout. Really dry brushing. See, that's how I get this effect right here. So you guys will be like, can I do it without a grainer? And I'll be like, well, there you can use a lot of brushes. This is what I mean. The brushes can be helpful. Like I like my brushes. They are helpful. But a lot of times what it is that I understand the technique. And why you guys are struggling is that you're not quite versed yet in the technique. Look at that. Just already looks like a little piggles, right? There's that weird layering that we talked about. And then right over this.
Just keep layering the furs.
Just keep layering the furs. Oh, that's fantastic. Now, let's let that dry. That's little segment one. This is where you're going to get. It can be a little bit to get there, but look, isn't it just too much? Just worth it? Dry everything, come back, more bristles. So we're going to continue on thinking about our layering, and I know that I've got a area black here, and then an area of white on the top, and then an area of white here with a black in the middle. What? I know. So let's get a little of our black going first. Let's come to the outside edge here. I'll go in a little bit with it, but I don't want to go too far. Gotta let that dry for a minute. Work out some of this right here. It's a bit of a thing,
Yeah.
Come in and I'll make sure this all looks really good. All right. But then I'm going to need white. I know. Gonna be a journey. Off the back. And then over the black. You know what?
No.
I think is cuter. I have a decision I make.
Make a decision.
I'm going to make a decision for is cuter. I'm going to take a slightly darker, cool area and blend this into what will be the belly. So that would be the white fur in shade, because then I can really sort of enjoy putting in the black fur there. While still having that little pop of black in the back. All right. Not a whole new step, dry everything, come back. And so you pause me if you need to. I'm going to dry mine with a hairdryer, but we're going to edit that out. But everybody dry. Just looking at my cuteness here.
Mm-hmm.
Where do I want my cuteness to be? All right. And come here.
Wait, wait. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Still going. Not a new step.
Nope. I just had to make sure.
Just had to make sure. It's just it's like roses.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really like roses. Where you're like, oh my goodness, I've really got to line the fur here. Or bristles, as they say.
Yes.
And remember, we've got a lot of flowers that are going to be coming up, covering a lot of this.
Right.
So there's a lot of room to have a moment, if you're wondering. Yeah, you've got room to have a moment. Just so much. It's so cute.
Yeah.
Now, I am going to dry and then come back in and add white. Again, it's not a whole new step. So same brush, still number 4, coming in and grabbing a hairdryer. This is why it's nice sometimes to have a hairdryer next in your studio so you can work through layers like this very quickly and not have to like wait for them to dry. It's a nice thing, I think. Add a little more brown to make it just a little more fur gray. Fur gray. Now, I think I'm going to come here and actually kind of piece into the black that I have there because I think if I do that, it will layer out a really cute way. And then, under here, comes there. And again here, because that snout sort ends like that. We let a little of the pink show, right?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of the pink show. I can always come back, rinse out, and just make sure that I got maybe just a little bit of a hint of that. And it's just because, their snouts are actually kind of long.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I want to make sure that I can see that. It's looking pretty good. And this is, again, not the whitest of the fur that we're going to be putting on here.
Mm-hmm.
I might taper this down a little bit into a V just to be cute and cute. Pretty cute. Pretty okay. Back into my black. Back in black. Black fur. Right here.
Mm-hmm.
What'd I tell you? Worth the journey. Sometimes you wonder yourself, is this worth the journey? I know I'm getting there, but was it worth it?
I think so.
It is. It is. When you can find it, I'm going to even tuck a little bit here. So sometimes you kind of layer and tuck. I might even try to pull some through here. That. Turn this up so we can definitely see that. Oh, I love it. Just making sure, like, the positioning of everything on my face. All right. So we have his basic pattern in. right? And we've got some highlight fur and little details to put in to finish him out. And then he's going to be so magical. You're going to just love him on your wall. You're going to be like, he's my favorite piggy. I have a lot of piggies. I should make a playlist of how to. I've painted so many pigs. I apparently really like them as a subject matter. Things I didn't know before YouTube. I love painting pigs. Actually, it started with sticky pigs, didn't it? Started with the video. That's my story time I should tell. All right. So we're going to try this and we'll come back and we'll do another step. So let's add a little more like highlight, a little more zhuzh to his zhuzh. I'm going to get more white into my off-white mix. And it's still going to be a little bit of that, but much brighter. It's going to read as white. And my brush is, I'm going to make sure it's not too wet. So it can do that fur effect. Even put some here. I'm going to go through and make the white just amazing.
Yeah.
You might have thought I'd use my hot brush all the way through here, but I didn't. Very carefully through this area, trying to make sure that I've got good directionality.
Mm-hmm.
And then come around like that. And that's just so much, isn't it? Just gives us so much.
Yeah.
A little bit at the top here. Fun stuff. All right. Coming down. A little bit lighter, perhaps on both sides, but it's okay. Here, it's just a little more in shadow
Mm.
because it's under the nose. That's all right. That's okay. We don't mind that. We're okay with that. I'm going to rinse out and then blue and black again. Those finishing touches. And finishing touches make a big deal in a piece. He's so cute. Now, the liner. I'm going to get it. Grab my fluid paint. Do that. Come here and make sure that I've got some hairs. Or just maybe individuals. Over the eye. And give a few lashes.
Mm.
Why wouldn't we want those, right? A few little lashes. Just a little personality. Just a little bit there, just a few wild hairs. Sometimes you just need a few wild hairs. Get a little of your brown and your black. And get your quinacridone in it too if you want. Come along the little wrinkles on his little face and just make sure that they have a little bit of a shadow on them. Come here and add a little bit of that shadow. Shadows are important. And then I'm going to wipe out my brush very well, and I'm going to come in and get a little bit of white, and I'm going to kind of tap a little bit of a reflection on the top of his cute, adorable little snout. I'm tapping my brush up and down. Tapping my brush up and down. And maybe a little bit on this little part of the wrinkle, right?
Yeah.
Little reflections up his snout. Just a little bit of sunlight. Maybe his nose is a little wet. He's sniffling things, as
Yeah.
pigs will. Give him a little bit of, and he just had some breakfast on his lip, so that's a little reflecty. Maybe a little bit here coming off his little snouts. Look at that. Just anywhere you want to put little long hairs. I think that's it. I think we got him. I think we're ready for flowers. Look at how cute he is.
Yes, he's got a little cute face.
He's got a cute face. And isn't that what you want out of any piglet? It's a cute. Don't eat the piglet. This is a pet piglet. It's a pot-bellied pet piglet. That's what I've decided.
Yeah.
All right. When we come back, we're going to put in the greenery and begin our flower journey. So now we're going to add some distant greenery and some deep greenery. I'm going to use my number 8 Filbert by Simply Simmons to do that. I'm going to get clean water and get my brush a little bit wet and take some of my burnt sienna and my phthalo green together. Right? And a little bit of my head yellow, but not too much. And I'm going to come here and make little curved strokes on the edge of the brush. That's going to create leaves of a sort. Sometimes I'll do them big, sometimes I'll do them small. They will be curved to the right, curved to the left. Little motion, little energy. At a particular point, they will become solid because I want a very solid deep color down at the bottom. Right? They're open as they grow up to the top, but our piglet is in something very, very depthy.
Yeah.
Right? So to make sure it's rich and depthy, I'm going to take this green right up to his little pigletness and all across. Where it's deep, I don't really have to worry about directionality too much. But when it comes over him and comes around outside where it's kind of layered, I do.
Gotcha.
Because you're also going to have to plant some flowers. So this is going to help you find that. And, you know, you'll want to remember that. There we go. He's fairly seated in some flowers now, almost, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my yellow up here. And I haven't rinsed out my brush. So that's going to give me a super light green. Oh, man, I just got right into it. That's okay. I was going to get brown, does the same thing.
Huh.
Sometimes that'll happen. You're like, oh, I got red. I was going to get brown, does the same thing. Going to add some lighter greens into this while it's all still wet. Not my lightest, but pretty light. I won't get too deep with these mixes down here because I'll need to kind of work those around flowers and think about that a little bit. But I will want to have enough that I'm framing Mr. Cutie Face. Get a lot more yellow into it, and this time a bit of white. And in the back here, a few places. Now, we'll have some in the front, but it's okay to layer in some extremely light greenery to these outer edges. See what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Before I even get the flowers in. So we're creating a little sense of like light and then him casting a bit of a shadow, but nothing too extreme. And I am working clean water right now because I want my flowers to be bright. I'm going to dry everything because these are yellow flowers. I'll come back and show you what you're going to do next. If your painting student paints or inexpensive paints, before you begin this step, you're going to need to watch the shapes I make with my yellow and make those in white, dry it, and then paint your yellow over the top. I'm just saying this, if you've been here for all 30 days, you know that by now.
Yeah.
But if you just walked in, you might not know that about your paint, that you would need to do that. So I just want to give you that quick note. Check the mini book. There'll be a little note on it about that too, just as a way if your yellow isn't covering. My yellow is going to cover. The colors I'm going to use are going to cover. I'm going to be okay. And I'm starting kind of with an orange anyways. All right, so I'm going to begin with a little bit of my red and cad yellow mixed together in my number 4 round. I'm going to come here and make a little bud. Another little bud. Some will be small, some will be big. Some will be full flowers, which is going to be a curved stroke where it kind of curves the right, and then let's match it. So it's almost like we're building a tulip. Oh, that's lovely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just putting that in, building where those little flowers would go. I can even come in and do 3 strokes, kind of opening one up. Even where the flowers might get bigger, don't forget to put small flowers. Never forget big and small.
Yeah.
And sometimes I like to take them off the canvas a little bit. Put them in the distant grass inside the leaves. Roll my brush. Coming through here. Planting flowers. Whatever this little piggle has come to eat, this is them.
Yeah.
This is a spring pig, and not because it's breakfast, because it's spring and it's pig.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's my inner child having a little conversation right there. Don't we all have one kind of a little bit?
Yeah.
An inner child that wishes people would be kind and animals were treated kindly and the world was a safe place for everyone. That inner child sometimes talks to me when I'm painting. To do the next part of the flowers, though, I really have to dry this because I want the yellow, the lighter yellows, to sit on top. And if I'm painting one into wet, it'll really want to blend into what's there. So let's dry this and then we'll sit them on top. I really want to frost these flowers. And I'm going to take a little of my tight knit yellow and my cad yellow together and even some white. I'm going to add some reflections to some of them. This would be like a petal that had caught a little light. Two little curves there. I won't catch everything in the deep of the flowers.
Yeah.
Some will, but a lot won't be. There should be a fairly bright application. Like it's visually light.
Yeah.
Now I do want to work wet into wet with this, so I'm going to take just my cad yellow and come here and add a little bit of that as little petals. Look at that. So I have this orange, and then I'm popping in with this bright yellow, and I have this cream, and it really does something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now sometimes the little orange won't have the bright yellow, or it won't have the light yellow, or it's just the orange. That looks pretty good. That's pretty good. Okay, while this is all here, I take a little of my cad yellow, my phthalo green and burnt sienna. Get some cad yellow going. Still on my number 4 round. And make sure that I tuck in some of my flowers.
Ah.
See how we're just kind of, in some places, layering them in?
Yeah.
And also this lets me think about what's happening down low. And then I can get into my very bright yellow. Very bright. And maybe some white. Kind of that yellow green. Just place that very specifically a few places.
Yeah.
All right. I feel like I'm happy with that. I'm happy with that pig. I'm happy with this journey. I'm going to sign this and then I'm going to tell you what's happening next. I am using my bright green and some of my white, and I'm going to come here with my monogram, the number 4 monogram, and sign. So that it just doesn't take over the whole painting.
Sure.
Oh, I'm pretty happy with this. I hope you guys are happy with yours. Certainly, at the end of the journey, I want you guys to go out on a big win. So we'll come back. I'll tell you more. So many years ago, I painted a pig. It was my first daily painting. I had this idea and I was going to do a daily painting. I've made a whole video about this. This is that image. But it's not that image anymore from the first daily painting. And if you want to see a very raw, open, honest, like artist not like covering up their mistakes, please watch that video where I show you how much I've progressed in this amount of time. I wanted to end Acrylic April on this painting so we could all revisit it. And even from the one where I tested myself into this one, I feel like I've gained there too. This never stops, this journey of getting better. I think as long as if you have a will and you have tools and access to materials, I think you never stop growing. I think you can start this at any age. I think that you can take your skills and your journey as far as you want to. Yes, there are people who have, I don't know, acuity. Sometimes it's it's more easy for them to fall into, right? But we can all get there. We can all paint the painting that we have in our heart. It's just about slowing down, paying attention, learning those skills, building those skills up, putting them together, and every once in a while, testing yourself with a daily painting. So if you came for just the pig, congratulations. I'm so glad you showed up today. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button because I teach art all the time for free in this amazing way. If you came through for Acrylic April, I'm going to just take your worry away. Yeah, next year there's going to be an Acrylic April. We're already working on it. So you're going to see this if this is a journey that you want to keep taking with me. I feel like I'm never going to stop getting something good and amazing out of it. I feel like you guys will too. I said I was going to show you everything about my tools at the end, but we realized during this that we should probably just make a short that we play after this video that you can see. So it's its own video. And so we'll put that in the iCard. If you're here on the replay, you can check the iCard. That's a little floating thing. And I'll make sure it's in the Acrylic April playlist as well, or on the short shelf, all the places that I did. Short shelf always almost makes me cuss, and it always makes closed captioning think I did. Short shelf down there. So you'll always be able to see it. But I just want to show you how much paint I used, what happened to my brushes, like give you a very honest assessment of like what you go through during this. That'll be just like a 1 minute look. So catch that after this video. I want to see all 30 paintings. Whenever you did this, years later, this year with us, 6 months from now, we want to see them. There's the Acrylic April group, come by and share. There's always people in there going through the journey. You will always have community. Man, flowers. Let me know if you want to do some big flowers because I feel like now we all have some flower skills and I want to do some big flowers. So if you're ready to go 16 by 20 with these skills, let me know because I'm ready to teach it some
big
beautiful
ones.
stuff. And landscapes and all the things that I usually teach, but maybe some easel pieces, some bigger canvases.
Yeah.
You can always do them on an 8 by 10. You don't have to paint big with me. It sizes down beautifully and is probably easier on your printer. So no pressure. Just more flowers if this was fun because we didn't get to paint every flower.
No.
I did not. There's a lot of flowers.
There's so many.
So many flowers. I feel like I could have done a daily painting for a year. I'm not going to, don't worry. But I feel like I could have and not touched it and not begun to even touch it. We're lucky to have you with us. We're lucky to have you be our viewers and our community. We are blessed to have you trust us with your education time. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for that trust. I want you guys to be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.